All right, 6:01 by my clock, so we'll call the meeting to order tonight. Birch Incorporation Association, March 19th, 2026. Let's do a roll call. Matt Berry.
Here.
Lisa Guthrie, that's me. I'm here. Norman. Here. Michael Stringham.
Here.
Michael Rutkowski.
Here.
Pauline Nessie.
I don't see her
Okay.
unless she just got on.
Jason.
Oh, there she is. She's here.
Okay. Pauline's here. Jason was excused, right?
Yep.
Jan.
Here.
Pat. Mr. Elsey.
Here.
Jonathan.
Here.
Chuck.
Chuck had a family thing in Canada.
Oh. Yorkson.
Here.
Carolyn. No.
And Jeff Frank is hustling back from Everett right now. He might join us mid-meeting
Okay.
online.
All right. Did everybody have a chance to take a look at the minutes from last month? And if so.
Motion to approve.
I'll second it. I'm just gonna make two notes of potential amendments. One, the date is not 2025.
All right.
I don't know who you hire for that.
I think the problem is that we don't pay.
What you pay for.
The other one is the motion that was approved. I've got recorded as $1,200. And I noticed that it was only $1,000 paid, so.
I think it was $1,000.
So did we correct that?
Video, yeah.
You watched it?
I'll amend my motion to approve the minutes with the correction to the 1,000 and the date.
Okay.
Okay, all approved as amended?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right. So here's where we'd like to open our meeting up for public comment. We ask that you keep your comment to 3 minutes. Ask that you be courteous and kind to your neighbors and keep it positive. Anything that you feel like you want to let the community know or tell the committee. Anyone?
This is what I come for, so speak up. If you want to yell at me in person, it's okay.
You need to go.
It's not worth it.
Do I need to pay them?
$10 each and you'll have.
Oh. Well, see, then we'll circle back and have another opportunity later in the evening if we can keep it to our 7:30 time. So, all right. Well, thanks everybody for coming. As far as executive committee report, we didn't actually meet as an executive committee because we didn't have any directive really short of getting to that research and feasibility meeting and developing that concept. So there wasn't an executive committee meeting. I think that we could talk about, Matt and I though, representing the committee, went on Saturday. We were asked to come and talk to the Washington Institute for Democratic Future, which is a group of young people that work in and out of government jobs and policy jobs in the state. And they travel around and have all sorts of different topics and things like that. So Matt had made up one of our presentations. That's just some of our slides to tell them about our project and get, they were very engaged. They had lots of interrupted questions. We thought we'd do the proposal and then talk about things. And it was a very tight room. I would say it was no larger than this, maybe
a tad smaller. There
maybe
was 50
smaller
people.
and 50 people. So we were sitting up and there was just lots of people, standing room only type meeting. But I thought it was great to see that many people. Kind of, there was some all ages, but I would say definitely on average Matt's age, not mine.
Maybe a little
Younger.
Lisa, what do they represent? Who do they represent? Where they live? I mean, were they out here?
all over the state. So it's
Yeah.
like I think they're young people who are interested in civics and stuff and want to hone their leadership skills. And they apply, and then the group accepts, a certain number of them, and then they travel around the state for a few weeks. And so we were like, I think the people before us were talking about border issues, and then the people after us were talking about farming in Skagit County.
Wow. how
And,
cool.
So this was their 5th weekend in, since January, and they've been all different
Great.
sides of the state to.
There was someone there from Covington, which is one of the
Mhm.
new cities too.
Mhm.
So they had some interesting feedback, and then there was someone from Silverdale, which is near Bremerton, which is
Try.
voted, I think, 3 times in the last 10 years
Yeah.
on Incorporation.
And
So
not
they had
passed
some-
it.
And not pass
And
it.
that, that's.
Yeah,
And so he was, they were very interesting to speak to.
I got a message later that day, from the person who invited us in. Thank you for joining us this morning. I don't think we have had such a session with such universal positive feedback on it being very informative. Great job. So.
Great job.
Great.
And how did they hear about us?
Jim Shaver is volunteer with them and said, hey, there's some people who are doing something you probably haven't heard of. And
And I don't know if you guys remember Jim, but he comes to a lot of our meetings and lives out on Birch Point. And so he was our first year, encouraged us to survey the people out there for their level of interest on joining in this
Mhm.
project. So Jim was a little disappointed that he didn't get to serve on the committee and things. So he's kept us in his heart and, sends good information our way.
The Washington Institute for.
A democratic future.
Okay.
So a lot of people had, sort of policy jobs and different
the tiny hand went into the.
yeah, assistance to politicians and just people in there were some of them in, maybe education fields and things like that. So they have a website, and I started reading through their bios on there. There's 30 some of them, and it's a little intimidating, their resumes already, but anyways. So that's really it for executive committee. Research and feasibility report is a big topic tonight, so maybe we'll jump ahead and do the finance report so that we can then go to our main topic. Is that all right? Okay.
Awesome. All right, treasurer's report. Today we did get a deposit of $300, which is C-Shop and steering committee donation of $100. It's not on here, so we'll report that next. I ran out of time. Anyway.
Stated yesterday.
So we did get 14 cents in a dividend, so that's fabulous. Yay. Constant Contact 8813, our consultant check to Bob Jean for 1,000. $25 for our mailbox, our Zoom for 104, so our expenses were $1217.57. So we still do have operating cash of $2,642.50.
Thank you. And then I don't know of any other old business other than the research and feasibility report. So I guess let's go there. Matt,
Alrighty.
just lead that.
Thank you for sharing the meeting, Lisa, so that I didn't want to talk this whole meeting. Or I didn't want you to have to hear me talk this whole meeting, so. Here we are. Back to this, sharing the screen. All right, now I'll start this off here.
You want to present?
Yeah, I'm trying to present,
In
where's
the bottom right, there is an icon right next to the slider, the first left icon right next to.
Oh, there we go.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, so I'll just start it off with the steering committee or the research and feasibility committee met last week and a month ago and basically worked through the model that CAI gave to us. It took getting some help from Birch Bay Community Advisory Committee to get that model. But what we did at the steering committee's direction in the motion from the February meeting was look into a high service model, but that we can afford, and then kind of a balanced budget version that didn't involve tax increases. So we tried to stay away from challenging the study's underlying assumptions. The way I'll give you a little demonstration in a minute, but what we were able to do was basically take Exhibit 19 and Exhibit 20 from the feasibility study. The number of sheriff's deputies contracted and then the number of staff, and they have in there what they, you know, based on interviews with different cities, what they would expect as far as salary and benefits and whatnot. So we didn't go, well, we'll pay this person less, we'll pay that person less. We just went, we don't need 2 of these positions, or we don't need 3 of these positions. We can get away with 1. And we had Bob Jean, another city manager, and then some community stakeholders from different districts and whatnot kind of chime in on that too. We didn't want to devise a city staffing model that was completely unrealistic, that wouldn't be able to do the work that's required to run a city. So by reducing law enforcement by 3 positions, city staffing by 2.5 positions, we were able to produce a balanced staffing model with no tax increases. And in the back of our minds the whole time, we tried to be responsive to the community's expressed desires for service. So one of them was better planning. So we didn't want to chop up that department a whole bunch. And so I'm going to switch this over. I think it'd be easier to kind of show you what we did. If I can figure out how to do this here. How do I share? Go back. How do I get back to this? Share. All right. So here's kind of what the model looks like. Everything on the left there is what we, yeah. So everything on the left there is the model from CAI that we were provided. And then everything on the right is the exhibits 19 and exhibits 20 that I talked about. So when you look at, I'm going to try to get rid of this thing here.
Recording in progress.
Yeah, thanks. There might need to grab chairs from over here. Thanks, Jorgensen. So we didn't play around at all with non-labor costs or the facilities costs. Those are like, you know, what's required as far as housing the people and office equipment and all that kind of stuff. The annual salary and benefits here, this number is for example, I'll go to city manager labor. This includes the city manager, the city clerk, the administrative assistant, and the IT specialist in that number. So we didn't propose pay cuts to anyone except for the city councilors. And then created this kind of interactive thing. So you can go here and say, what if we had 1 lieutenant? That changes the bottom line there to a positive. What if we had 3 deputies? What if we had 2 IT specialists? Or we had that one up. Or 2 assistant planners. That changes the fund balance at the bottom there. So it took a few meetings to get that kind of worked through. Here's what we ended up coming up with. Thank you for hanging with me with all the back and forth. So this compares CAI on the left, the folks who did the feasibility study, their staffing model. So there's totaled 9 contracted law enforcement officers, 13 city employees, 7 city council members. On the right there is what BBIA and RWJ Consulting came up with as far as a staffing setup. So instead of 2 lieutenants, we've got 1 lieutenant. Instead of 5 deputies or 7 deputies, we have 2. We got rid of a record specialist. What else did we do here? Some changes in parks and recreation. We have a recreational coordinator essentially with the Chamber of Commerce. So we ended up with 6 total contracted law enforcement officers and 10.5 city employees. We try to keep the number of law enforcement officers over 5.25 because that essentially equates to 24-hour, 24/7 police coverage. A city could do with fewer than that and rely on some mutual aid, but that's what the group kind of said. So here's a scenario. This accomplishes, I think, objective 3 of that motion that we made a couple of meetings back, which is a much higher level of service. So what we did here is we took the CAI model, which is on the left here, and then basically increased the property taxes to make it work out. So that's, if the property taxes are at $1.60 for the road fund, it equates to a $30 per month tax increase to a $500,000 home, which is kind of your average home. That's a general fund balance of 500,000 essentially in the positive that could be spent on whatever. This is the one that is more interesting. So I'll just go down this line by line if I can get up. Kind of show you the changes that we made.
Can I just intercede?
Yeah, please.
Okay. When we started cutting people, we looked at every job that a city, especially a new city, has. What's important, who does what? And when we realized that they might have 3 assistants in there, we didn't need 3 assistants. We're small, we're Birch Bay. So when we eliminated a job, we knew that the person that was left, again, we're a small city, could do this job and that job. So we just did what our city does. They have a budget. Let's work within the budget, but not to the point of excluding anything that's important to us.
And
Okay.
just a preference, one second, Barney, I'll get to you. Just a preference, what we did here, this isn't necessarily what we would recommend a future city council does. It was mostly an exercise in what a potential future city council would do
Yeah.
out of the gate. They took a look at you take a look at the revenue you have, you figure out how to make it work within your means. So this is one way to do it. There's other ways to do it where you could add more permit technicians or less permit technicians and more people doing parks maintenance or whatever the community kind of wanted. Barney, you had a question?
Who is RWJ Consulting?
Bob Jean. That's
Okay.
the gentleman who has all this new city management experience. So he kind of helped.
And what's his credential?
Bob or Jan, do you want to speak to your credentials?
Yeah, what was the question?
What are your credentials?
Oh, well, in summary, I started 2 new cities, Newcastle and University Place, and I advised 4 others. And that's pretty much my new city experience. Other than that, about 40 years managing cities.
So thanks, Bob. So the reason why we brought him in and compensated him is so that we didn't design a city that wouldn't work. He kind of in some areas went, no, you have to have, for example, what if we contracted out finance? And he'd say, you got to have finance in-house. So it was that kind of advice that we used to create this model. So what this does, no increase to property taxes, no increase to sales tax, no utility tax. We did discuss franchise fees, which are pretty typical in all cities.
And one thing I learned from Bob last time was the franchise fees, the utility taxes are paid by the businesses, but they are passed on to the consumer. I learned that last time. So we're always learning here.
Yeah, so keeping in line with the motion that the greater steering can be passed, we didn't want to mess with the taxation here on this one. So state shared revenues, the CAI study did exclude the motor vehicle fuel tax, the increase in VFT, and then multimodal revenues, which equates to about $20 per year per citizen, essentially, or resident. So that's a state shared revenue that they excluded here because in the study, it says that it's restricted revenues. They didn't include that. This restricted revenues. I did a little further research and it can't go to like planning and city engineering and road maintenance and that kind of stuff. So we made that correction here. That was about $175,000 that was left out of the revenue side. And then grant cost recovery. So this is something that Bob Jean kind of introduced us to. The study says that the new city would be so busy starting a new city, they wouldn't file for any grants. The thing is, it would be foolish for a new city of Birch Bay to not apply for grants. We would be an excellent grant candidate, the first new city in 20 some years, a city that one could argue has been somewhat marginalized, that hasn't maybe got that great of a return on the tax dollars that are generated here. All the new things that could be done here, it'd be silly to not go after grants. We'd be leaving millions of dollars on the table that we're paying to in our taxes to the state and federal government. Why not try to recapture some of that tax dollars too? So what you can do with grants to remain competitive in the grant application process, you don't want to put too much of your funds from the grants to staffing. But typically Bob told us 20 to 30% of grant funds can recover staffing costs. So basically, we went in with a pretty conservative estimate of $2 million worth of grants for a new city, of which 25% would offset some of our staffing costs here. Moving down into the expenditure side of things, and this is all for 2027. The changes we made in order to balance the budget in this exercise was reducing the number of officers from 7 to 5 and lieutenants from 2 to 1, keeping that 24/7 police coverage. Public Works, there was an error in the study. We ran it through Whatcom County Public Works. Actually, Barney helped us get that information a long time ago, but they had the total public roads in Birch Bay at, I think, 88.6 miles, when in fact it's 36.8 or something like that. So I think that they counted private roads in the public road thing, but that affects the amount you need to spend each year. The study estimated, I think, $3,200 per mile of road per year is kind of what you expect in road maintenance costs. So we didn't challenge that, we just corrected the amount of roads that we would be responsible for if we were a city. For planning and community development, we whittled it down to one planning director and one senior planner. These would be the people who do our comprehensive plan and contemplate zoning changes and things like that. We just didn't think that we needed 3 people. It was a 2-person job.
As a startup.
As a startup with a new comp plan. The comp plan's going through right now. And,
10 years until you do it again.
Doing well anymore in autonomy.
all right, got some. Hey, we can hear one of you. Keep it down, please. Parks and Recreation. So the CAI study had us at having a recreational coordinator, which is kind of redundant with the Chamber of Commerce, and Parks and Rec District. The recreational coordinator we thought was unnecessary because the chamber facilitates all our events. We did leave in $43,000, which is the amount of money the study estimated we would need as far as maintenance to the parks that the county would give us. So we left that in there. We can still take care of our parks, probably better than we are now. City manager, no change there. City council, we got so close. I'm going to hit this now, but this was the last thing that we did. The study had, I think, paying each city council member like $5,000 per year. We got so close and we were in the red, and then it clicked. Well, you don't technically have to pay city council members, so that's a way to balance the budget. So that was kind of a fun realization there, is keep all these folks pay the same, but reduce the financial incentive of the politicians, essentially. Where are we here? Finance. The only change to this was making the part-time the IT specialist part-time. So we made him a 0.5. We figured it's a new city, it's going to be going in with new technology. It's a lean city. We don't need 40 hours a week of someone answering, how do I get this email thing fixed? We can do it with 20 hours a week. And then building permit desk, this is one where we did add extra people. So we added a permit technician just to reduce permitting times, because that was something in a lot of our different surveys. That's a big reason why people might want to do this. Non-departmental, we left that the same. What we ended up with was general fund balance positive of 2,900.
Matt, I guess I just want to point out, staff were added, but revenue was not for the
Right.
enterprise fund.
Correct.
So I think that's material, because it's a more conservative approach than.
Yeah. That's the way we tried to do it, is real conservative with this, make as few changes as possible, but balance the budget.
And one of the things that Bob brought up at that meeting was that there are certain positions that if we have enough permitting requests or all that, if the revenue would go up to support additional personnel, but until we grow the revenue side, you didn't have to put the other person in, so they would all. Yeah.
Down here at the bottom, I'm just gonna highlight it for a second here, because it wasn't really mentioned in the study as prominently as I would have liked. But basically, what the road fund portion of our sales tax plus, these other things here pay for the staff, the people who are working on making this place a good city, down here, lodging tax, there's $340,000 that are collected each year from the short-term rentals. We get back about 220 of that, and that's way up over the past couple of years via the Chamber of Commerce. So there's another $120,000 that we don't really see coming back to us. That's doled out by the LTAC.
What's it
lodging
restricted
transportation.
for?
What?
What's it restricted to?
Tourism things, you know. The real estate excise tax,
I'm looking for.
you might be down the hallway.
Right down the hall,
Just in
right down the hall.
To the left.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Real estate excise tax, so this is $2.4 million that they estimate is collected each year. That jives with the numbers that Holly and our group came up with. This, I don't know if this is making it back to Birch Bay currently. If this were stuck in or stayed in Birch Bay, I think the Beach Park would have been done. And then the grants again were a great candidate.
So can you say again, what is the REIT restricted to? I think it's-
Roads and
Yeah,
sidewalks.
These are the capital improvements, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, sorry, that's a lot. Hopefully it wasn't too confusing when I was doing it.
I think it's marvelous work, you guys. Really incredible.
Just three other points that I wanted to bring up, and this is something I don't think we would have figured out without Bob's help, so thank you. But essentially, if the community were to vote to incorporate, the new city wouldn't open up its doors for 6 months to a year.
Mhm.
In that time, the county's still collecting taxes
That's
that are
right.
accruing to the city. When the doors open up, you start with a backlog of taxes basically that are collected. So Bob described it as kind of a bow wave phenomenon. Or a revenue expense differential. So you're collecting taxes, but you aren't spending the money yet.
That's right.
Essentially, that could roll over into kind of a reserve fund for the city. So
Exactly where it should
if
be.
we could do it with a balanced budget with the tax dollars that we're currently paying to the county, I think we would be a pretty healthy city, or at least we'd be real well positioned off the bat. Barney?
Equipment purchases.
That's included in the startup costs and non departmental and the non-labor costs in the study already. So we didn't mess with that at all.
So that's not reflected in the cash balance at all.
No, it is.
It is.
It's still enough.
This one right here.
So if
364.
yeah, in the model, that's reflected as, what is it?
Non-department.
Non-departmental, and then they have some startup costs too. That's not something you'll see in that exhibit 1 in the study, because it's kind of compressed down to what we did here. But the only changes we made were just to staffing positions. Any questions, comments, or thoughts?
I guess I can come up
Yeah.
with one. Has there been any discussion with the county regarding their feasibility study and where we're going with this?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Birch Bay Community Advisory Committee, we made public comment to them saying, you know, here's some of the assumptions that we take issue with, or, you know, you goofed up on the number of public roads. They wrote a letter to the county saying, hey, we'd like to have a little bit of a conversation about this. That hasn't gone anywhere yet on the county side, though, at the meeting last night. So the Birch Bay Community Advisory Committee meets the third Wednesday of each month at
The other church.
Birch Bay Bible Church, yeah, the other church. John Scanlon, one of our at-large county council representatives, was there, and we reiterated these concerns to them.
Last night, it was great having him there.
Yeah, it was
really
good.
was.
Any other thoughts, questions?
I think
Carol?
this makes perfect sense. Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
And I mean, we don't have the authority. We're unelected. This is just kind of an exercise. If this were to advance to an election, the community said they wanted to do it, then you would elect city council folks who would do this. But
But it's some guidance for
it can
you.
be, the whole point of this is just to show that it can be done.
Yeah.
So hopefully we accomplish that.
You gotta remember that you would, towards the end of the process, when the city actually comes to the form, the city board couldn't say, we accept with this recommendation, or we'd like to change it to this. They had the final say.
Voters, yeah.
So
Any other thoughts, questions?
Can we get a show of hands on how many people are for this?
Well, can we go through the?
yeah, that's first, I don't know that we're there yet.
No, we've got a little
I'd
bit.
like to know with this group, how many people here are pro?
I don't know if
You're
that's,
for-
I don't know if that's even appropriate.
Yeah.
Bylaws say we're supposed to be nonpartisan.
No.
I think we're in the discovery stage.
Feasibility part.
We have some notes.
Dorley?
I know the chamber was for it years ago. The chamber was a bit concerned about lodging taxes. Would the lodging taxes then go to support the chamber?
If that's what the city
Yes.
council wanted to do,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
that's money that's probably the best place to spend it.
And what we found out is that, CAI came up with the numbers which we found supported, that there's $340,000 being collected annually. But they're funding the chamber at about 200 and something, so that other 120
Well,
is
that's,
out there going somewhere
At
else.
least 100,000 more than chambers getting.
Right. Right, so that's how we're
Great
thinking about
events.
that. So,
Cool.
I guess what I would say is this, to me, is the answer to our motion that we were working on was the 3 scenarios. So the high service scenario is basically the CAI model. And demonstrating what that would cost in additional taxes.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
This model is showing that a balanced budget city is possible.
Yep.
And then our third one was to try to establish what we are receiving now for the tax dollars that we are paying. So based on this model, we know what we're paying. And what are we receiving now? And we went through a number of different ways to try to parse that. You know, how many of this, how many of that,
Could I use an example?
yeah, so
One example there, we thought about estimating our current level of service via this staffing model as well. Because you can argue that we have one neighborhood deputy 40 hours a week. If you put that down as 0.2 here, we're served by more deputies, but we would be if we were a city also. You wouldn't be paying city councilors, though we are contributing to the city council people's staffing budget, I suppose. Things like planning director or senior planner. Currently, we share one senior planner with the other unincorporated UGAs in the county, so Columbia Valley and Cherry Point UGA. So you could argue that we technically currently have 0.3 senior planners. We just thought it would be hard to produce something that was credible going about it that way. So I don't know if we can accomplish credibly that third.
which is where I was going with that. The way we went through it, whether it's per capita or that kind of an exercise, there's one for 10,000 people or 100,000 people and we're, close to 10. So are we 10% of that number or are we this and that? And I didn't see a credible way to do it that wouldn't be too hard to argue or support in favor of. But what I think we can answer that one by more of a narrative, when if you look at this balanced budget city, a Birch-based citizen can look at that and decide for themselves whether they feel like that's more service than they have now.
This scenario, I think, is absolutely fantastic because it gets to that point of no new taxes, quote unquote. I still think even just making the assumption of 10%, which is a really simple factor to run through, and using the county budget, really gives you that sense of how much more tax money is being pushed in from this community than we're getting back in services.
So you're saying you just the flat ratio of population to county staffing and just show that?
I think that would be a fair and reasonable way I mean, people can argue no matter what way you do it. But if it's 10% of the popular, 10.8%, whatever the fractional piece is, it is a a defendable position. If somebody else wants to come out with another position, that's fine. Let's hear it. But I think,
Do we need it?
I think we do, because I think we need to be able to demonstrate to the residents how much we are paying into the system now and the lower level of service that we're getting now, as opposed to this one, which increases your service levels significantly for the
Well-
same amount of money.
It's $13.8 million a year is what we're paying to the county. And you can decide for yourself if you think we're getting that service back.
I would just say I love the approach this took was to keep it simple.
Yes.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
no
absolutely.
modification. I mean, we're not the experts. We didn't make a bunch of modifications to the assumptions of the experts. I think the merit of what you're proposing is that it keeps it very simple, and I think it will be more imprecise than I think this is pretty precise and defensible. I think that methodology, there's some holes in it that are imprecise, but maybe if it's still useful for people to see that, it doesn't, I don't see that it would harm anything to publish it and show it. I'm just thinking of there are deployment costs that are not divisible. There's essentially the basic costs of the service that we wouldn't allocate out by, like if you're going to have a certain function, it's going to cost at least so much to do. It doesn't matter. We don't need to get into it here, but I'm just, it will have some imprecision to it.
I like this.
It certainly will, yeah.
No.
Oh, okay. This is important to the
It's very important.
I like this layout. My feeling is keep it simple. If you want to get into taxes, Blaine, I can do that for you. I'll tell you what. I compared what we're paying or what Birch Bay Future City would be paying based on those lines. Taking that, adding in Birch Bay warm, if you know about that, they're nice and warm. It costs you money. I didn't add in the lighting district. They're still trying to get me to get the information to me in the lighting district, okay? So you can compare that with Blaine. We're paying a lot more than Blaine. We're paying more than Ferndale. Oh, you know what, Linden, what about Linden? Oh, Linden has their own fire department, so I add in what we're paying into Fire 21, which is a good outfit, and I support them in their levy that's coming up. We are paying more than Linden in property taxes and virtually more. Yes. Now, Birch Bay, goal, we need to take care of it. My concern is the planning, and so we grow properly and we don't screw it up. Okay, I'll be quiet.
Agreed.
Okay, so,
I think Dorley had a question
Oh.
there.
Yeah.
and I think Bernie had his hand up.
When did you get the $13 million? That's always been hidden from those.
Good
of us
question.
who've been
Yeah,
working
I
across
meant to bring that.
with Birch Bay.
I added up the 2027 estimated revenues plus the lodging tax and the real estate excise tax.
So you didn't get that from the county, right?
I mean, technically, we kind of
For years.
did.
Okay.
Through the study, but
Okay, do the study. because
yeah,
they
and I
don't
did
see
subtract the
the
grant cost recovery from that because that's not.
Wait, I'm sorry. You said you added up the total operating revenues at the top there.
This minus the grant cost recovery plus lodging tax and real estate excise tax.
How does that equal 13 million though? Did you
Might have added
include
something
the
there.
county
Okay.
road tax as well?
Let me come back to
Yeah.
that. I definitely messed that up.
Do you have the enhanced or high service scenario?
That's this one here.
Yeah.
It's the study.
So that's
So,
the study.
Basically what the study gave us, but we made it so that you're not in a $2 million hole.
And I was really stunned with the $30 per month tax increase to a $500,000 home, that would in fact generate another $2 million in revenues.
And
I
we
was,
didn't make that up. They presented that and they said that quickly in that meeting in December when they published the study on, and they did the Zoom meeting. That was the number that
I
they.
just did a
but
quick
yeah.
run at, if you took that, it's $360 a year and ran that through per unit, it's like $5,700 dwelling units, which
Mhm.
is well within the ballpark. So it's a stunning number, I think is the point.
So the,
And if I can just finish,
sorry.
it relates to the survey that was done of would you be willing to pay more? And I think that starts to leave the question on the table of look at the kind of police service you could get. Because that's the thing that struck me in the survey was it asked you the question, would you be willing to pay, I think it was $200 or $400 more a year for enhanced services, but it never really dug down into which services. And the one that always comes up to me is the police services. So if you could afford the CAI scenario with $200 to $400 of additional property tax a year, that becomes a sellable kind of position also. If our survey was reasonably accurate, I think it was only like 25 or 30% of the group
Right.
that said they would, but
But I guess that's the other thing is that our task is to determine if it is feasible, not to develop the budget or what the
No,
levels of
exactly.
service are. And so ways to demonstrate how that can be done, that becomes a council's job
Yes.
should we pass. So,
Bob
do you
Jean has
think-
had his hand.
hand up for a while, okay, and then I think, did you have a question, Barney? Because you had yours up, I think, before.
I
the
was
meeting.
I was questioning the reduced staffing and what that would do with the L and I and union requirements. You know, a lot of times you can't go out without two people, or you can't do this without this. You can't go out.
Oh, as far as law enforcement, yeah,
Or even in public works people.
I
okay.
mean, do you have any, maybe that's something, Bob, Jean?
Yeah, what?
Barney had a question about if you think that our staffing model here would raise any issues with the unions.
Well, the only union you would have would be with the sheriff there. If you contract, they have a deputies union. And improving the service level would not be a problem to them. And other employees, I don't see any L&I or would-be union conflicts. There's, they're all above, worker safety levels, that kind of thing. I did have a comment in support of, I think it was Chuck's comment about a narrative way of talking about the current level of service and how the model that we built here is an improvement in that service level because basically you're capturing tax dollars that are going to the county with no service coming back. And without bashing the county, I think at some point you can safely say it is not in the county's interest for the Birch Bay community to incorporate. The county would lose fiscal or financial money and let the voter draw their own conclusion and fill in the blanks. But obviously, the county was the sponsor of the CAI study. There's a reason they picked of the 4 scenarios that CAI built. 2 were feasible, 1 was break even, and 1 was negative, and they chose to present in December the negative report. Surprise, surprise. So.
May I be permitted to bash the county for a second? Go ahead.
We do
Well,
want to talk.
I don't think
grants
there's
and how
any.
that relates to this too, so we are,
I can make it quick.
okay,
There's a bunch of ways, if we did want to go through the narrative way of talking about how this is a service level improvement, there's a bunch of different little kind of anecdotal ones we could go with. The big one to me is I apply for building permits when I have to do something because I'm afraid of code enforcement. When I do so, I call and check up on them. I often don't get a call back, so I have to drive to planning and development and go, hey, what's going on? Why is it taking 6 weeks to give me a permit, sign off on my water heater, stuff like that. Whatcom County Council just voted to spend $8 million to move, buy a building in South Bellingham near the university to move planning and development there. That pisses me off. That us up in North County are gonna have to drive 45 minutes to go hassle these people to get our permits done. I would much rather to have a permit tech and a building official in this building or the building across the street when I need to build a deck or do whatever I gotta do, because it is already a nightmare doing it with the county and it's not gonna get better. So anyways, thank you for letting me vent.
And I think on the law enforcement issue with regards to the union, if in the scenarios that have been discussed so far, it has been based off of a contract with Whatcom County and they still would have mutual aid. And currently we have our one neighborhood deputy who goes on calls on his own and he has backup from the sheriffs and sheriff backs up Blaine too. So it's not inconceivable that those things would happen. So the other piece of the research that was done in support of this is the grant funding and why we believe it's important and that it should have been considered, and Sharman's got a report for us on that. All right.
Matt, quick note on that subject. The overhead cost transfer was based on roughly 25% of the grants and capital. It was a combination of REIT and grant monies, not just grants. But it was grants and capital money.
Thank you.
Okay. One of the things that I looked at was CAI came out with a feasibility study. And in their feasibility study, the one thing that they specifically mentioned is they are not including grants. And so I found that pretty interesting because from my experience, grants are a big part of nonprofits or a big part of a lot of things. And in checking with that, finding out that our community, as any new community, has available grants right out the gate. And so it's not a potential, maybe you might get them. They are actually set up for brand new cities and they're anxious to give them. So basically with the feasibility study, they said the CAA said that this study is informational only and not part of the incorporation process. Ultimately, the level of service of a future city would be determined by elected representatives of a newly formed government. In their Exhibit 1, the summary of the same cost framework, revenues and expenditures, they show the total operating revenues of $5,104,900. So basically what CAI has given to us, I felt, was the floor, but it wasn't the ceiling. It's saying, here's the revenue that we know that you've got, that we feel you've got to work with. So the CIA study didn't include the grant funding, not because it wasn't unavailable, but because it's not, in their words, guaranteed. However, we know from real world examples that cities consistently secure these funds, and that's an important part of the full financial picture. So let's review a few cities and get an idea if they incorporated and if they're similar to Birch Bay. Next. All right, this is these cities I came up with that we can relate to, and including Birch Bay. Liberty Lake, for example, went ahead and they started and incorporated in 2001. Now their population at that time was just over 4,000. I kind of looked at Liberty Lake as a sister city. They have a beautiful lake. They rely on tourism. They have very few companies around it. And yet they, with their population, it was just over 5,000. They were able to incorporate with a budget that was much lower than ours. Maple Valley, for example, if you know, as far as Maple Valley, most of us know in 1997, they're one of the closest comparisons to Birch Bay with a similar population and a similar starting revenue. And today, of course, it's a well-established city and they have very strong services. Kenmore, which is obviously in 1998, it's much larger. But it's an important city because it's a larger one, but it successfully incorporated and grew into their financial model. But you'll also see, moving on, that they collected less money moving on, but they're still able to grow. Edgewood had a population of 7,000, started with a smaller revenue base. They started with $3 million revenue coming in with a population of 7,000, and Birch Bay still successfully built a functioning city government with far less money than we have. This shows you don't have to need massive revenue on the day one. You basically need to grow with it. Covington's another strong comparison. 8,000 population, the starting revenue, over $1 million less than Birch Bay. Is Covington still a city? Are they growing? They have services? Yes. So what does that say about Birch Bay? Birch Bay's projected revenue is right in line pretty much with these cities that have already incorporated. And that's important because it shows we're not starting behind, we're starting competitive.
And did you adjust those for inflation over time?
No.
Okay, so some people will question that.
Well, if they,
Just
that's
so you know,
okay.
Because it could make, over 25, 30 years, it could make a difference.
Yeah,
This isn't a published document, though.
Okay.
This is a
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, just a conversation.
Just asking.
That's a
Right.
good point,
Just
though.
good
It is,
point,
yeah.
though. Good point. Okay, so slide 4. Now, this is where it gets pretty interesting. So with that being said, using the same scenario of adjusting, even with grants, we have better grants today than we've had back in 98, 97, all right? So when they talked around their first time that they incorporated, they did the same thing. They went out for grants. Liberty Lake in 2001, they got within 5 years over $7,000 in grant money. Maple Valley was a little bit high, $5 million, $1 million. Kenmore, which was quite a lot larger, close to $20 million. Edgewood, 4 million, Covington, 6 million. Projecting, looking at Birch Bay, again, comparable, we should be able to file for grants and we could very realistically be able to do 7 or 8 million. Now that's within a 5-year period, but majority of that, when you said 500,000 the first year, that's very attainable because there's a number of grants we would apply for that want to fund quickly because they know we need money to incorporate. Okay.
Next slide.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. So basically grants that Birch Bay could apply for. And these are real dollars. You've got roads and safety for transportation improvement board, small city arterial road repair, 500 to 3 million, sidewalk program, pedestrian safely. I don't know about you, but I would love to see a sidewalk from Baycrest down to Jackson Bridge, because one of these days you're going to have kids and bikes and dogs coming down that road. And so that's something we're not getting from the county now. Complete streets, roads, bikes, pedestrians, 1 million to 5 million. Then you've got your parks and waterfront. Do we have parks? Do we have waterfront? Recreation and Conservation Office, RCO grants. Boating facilities, waterfront access, 500 to 2 million. Washington Wildlife and Recreation programs for parks, trails, open space. Aquatic land enhancement account, shoreline beach access, 200,000 to 1 million. And of course, there's ongoing funding and state grants are available annually. So these are out there for new cities and they want you to apply for them, which is the ones that we would apply for right away.
Charmin, this is awesome. Thank you. And like, I guess just to emphasize, this is clearly just not a comprehensive list. It's an amazing list.
Oh.
And there's so many more. I mean, community development,
Yep.
connected housing infrastructure, land preservation funds, like just the amount of grants here. This is great. And it represents maybe 10% of what.
These are the kinds of things you apply for right away and they want to fund right away. Okay, next slide.
Right.
Dora Lee has a question, maybe.
Yes.
I don't know how many in the room here know that there's been a group of us that have been applying for grants for Birch Bay for the last 10 years. And with the recreation, the Parks and Waterfront Recreation and Conservation Office gave Whatcom County $1 million. We went for that grant. to pay them back for the state park, or for our beach park.
Yep.
And the county bought that beach park for 2.4. And so we brought $1 million back to that. The library.
Yep.
We brought 2 million in from the state Department of Commerce for the library. And then the Friends of Birch Bay Library had to buy or pay for the building and the ground. So we paid for the vote property, and that was $600,000. So we, in the last few years, have brought in $2,600,000 just for the library itself. It's much, when I started this adventure, I thought how hard and difficult this is. It's much easier.
Yes.
Than you would think. There's money sitting there waiting.
And as a city, it's even easier because a lot of these grants
That's right.
want to send it to cities, not just unincorporated areas. That's true. Wonderful. Okay.
I think Barney had a question.
How much, many of these grants come, like you said, it was matching funds. A lot of it was matching
No,
funds,
no,
or you didn't have to have?
We are looking at matching funds now to finish up the park, the amount that Park and Rec, Whatcom County Park and Rec needs to finish the beach park. We're looking at trying to raise another $500,000. But meanwhile, they just got that's another one I didn't mention. They just got 1.8 million, which we've been going for the last 4 or 5 years, because that park has been sitting there for 10 years. And lodging tax funds, capital funds from lodging taxes from Whatcom County gave us just recently 1.8 million. So, yeah.
So that matched it then to be able to take care of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, they need 500,000 more, and that's back on us to raise that.
Thank you for doing that, by the way.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Matt, can I jump in quickly?
Sure.
Very quick, the comment on matching funds, that's how the real estate excise tax fund and the grant funds pair up. You would use your REIT funds as your match dollars for your grants. The other grant, I mean, there's lots of, Jonathan's point, there's tons of grants that aren't on the list, but the two major ones are the state park grants. 1 year they'll have capital, they'll accept applications for capital, and the second year they'll have applications for operations. And that's how the city, as a new city, can partner up with the Park and Rec District, but target the improvements inside the city limits, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's great. The key to remember is these grants are there, but you have to be incorporated to get them. So it would allow Birch Bay, if we were incorporated, to be able to apply for the grants. And because we haven't had an incorporated city in a long time, they're very anxious to be able to help.
Yep.
Now, how does this new city fund year one? State shared revenue, sales tax, gas tax, liquor tax, right? Local revenue, property tax, and fees. Early grants that we just talked about, planning and capacity grants for startup costs. That's new city grants that they want applied for immediately. And that specific grant is to pay for staffing, consultants, right? So that's not even coming from the money that we've generated for revenue. It's added money that's going to help pay for staffing. Low interest state loans. How do you start? Get a loan, low interest. Grant money comes in for staffing. You needed to maybe pay for staffing, then you've got your grant money to pay off your low interest loans. Phased spending, prioritize needs over time. Nothing happens overnight, right? Grant funding plus your revenue gives you sustainable growth model if you follow your budget. Perfect. And then the next one. Funding letter. Planning and capacity grants, 25 to 500,000. Establish city planning framework, comprehensive plan zoning, which we have to work on. Fund early staffing, consultants, administrative setup, prepare engineering, environmental review, and grant readiness. Foundation step that unlocks larger infrastructure funding. Ongoing grant cycle, because once you start applying for grants, you can reapply the following year. Continued funding for roads, parks, infrastructure. Supports expansion, maintenance, and long-term growth. Smaller grants help you be able to apply for the larger grants. So feasibility studies often exclude grant funding because it's competitive, not guaranteed. However, cities across Washington consistently secure millions in grants after incorporation. Programs exist today that Birch Bay would immediately be eligible to apply for. Grant funding supports your roads, your parks, your infrastructure, community development. Based on past incorporations, there are many opportunities to fund Birch Bay from day one. And then the key takeaway for Birch Bay, there are real funding pathways available for new cities, from the state revenue sharing to grants and infrastructure loans. These tools are used by cities across Washington every year. Incorporation is not a financial cliff. It is an entry point into a proven system designed to support cities. So that's how I look at, when we're looking at our revenue, we need to look at other avenues that are also available to us, so that people aren't afraid about this red ink. Because I truly feel if we budget correctly as a city, we shouldn't have to worry about that.
And you found in your research, and Bob can support this, I know Jonathan can as well, many of the grants are just only available to cities.
Only available
And
for new
the
cities,
counties are
yeah.
not,
Yeah.
counties are not set up to serve urban areas. So they are not allowed to.
And I think Bob was very
conservative.
on that 500,000, because the cities that I showed you, usually within their first year had 1 million, if not more. So,
Well, I would say, I think, and it's appropriate, but I think it's also conservative to say you've got 20 to 30% cost recovery, because 15% is the federal de minimis standard, and then you're paying for embedded costs that you already have with the grant revenues. You're delivering that grant's purpose with the costs, with the staff you have, which offsets your expenses in your general fund. But I mean, it's also that you would have a professional staff. They exist in the county today, really fantastic professionals that are writing grants for the county and securing them. You'd have a professional staff focused on Birch Bay, the needs of Birch Bay, and really understanding it. And I think that's the exciting thing, is you've got a group of people that they're coming to work every day thinking, how can I make this place a better place to live? And they would be identifying grant opportunities none of us would even think about.
Oh,
We're not
exactly.
paid to think about it every day. So
Exactly.
anyway, I find that was such a great
thank you.
presentation. Thank you.
Well, and the key I took away from this is we would be getting money to do things that we can't get the county to do, and we went to a meeting last night talking about Morrison Avenue, and for months we've been talking about Morrison Avenue, and it's one way and there's 2 lanes of cars and speed limit is 25, and they did a $12,500 is what they did for a 7-day period to count the cars that came and went, 85%, how fast they went. And then they might be able to do this and might be able to do that. And he was at the meeting last night. Bottom line was, they really haven't come up with a solution. They don't know what kind of sign to use. They'd have to go back to the council and ask them if we could use a yellow one, if the wording would, and I'm sitting there going, oh my God, we could do a far better job.
The county
So,
set up
but it's back.
They're
Oh.
rural areas. We're not rural.
Yeah.
No, yeah. We're an urban growth area designed to grow at urban density with urban levels of service. And so I ask everybody if they think that's what we have. So the question is, we had a motion that was a project, and it was the 3 levels to use for our summary. So the question is, are we going to develop the base, what we have now, level of service, and what does that look like to do it? What's the timeline to do it? Because the next step is our basically final report of what this is, what we found, what it looks like, what our group is intending to do. So open to.
You actually do have, we actually have 3 scenarios. We have the gap, the high services CAI. We have the CAI with $30 average per month tax increase to achieve the same thing. And then we have current tax level enhanced services. So we do have.
We do,
3
but we're saying
scenarios.
that balanced budget scenario is an enhanced services. So how are we? What we had in our motion was to have something to say to prove that was enhanced services over what we have now. And that's the piece that hasn't been established yet. And so how are we gonna do that, and in what kind of quick time frame so that we can write our executive summary and move on?
So first of all, just amazing work that all you guys have done with the
Hey.
with the annual budgets and the grant writing and all that kind of stuff. I think we all knew it was out there, but we haven't jumped on it and done it. So just really amazing work. It seems to me that the three scenarios are doable. We can talk about how the first scenario gets cut. I don't think it'll take a lot of time if you just use a proportional kind of piece to it and put footnotes to it that, you know, this may or may not be reasonable because it's a, you know, a half of an employee, but at the same time, it's comparable to a contract that a, you know, half-time IT person, for example. So you can put notes on it that say, this is what makes it reasonable. When I look at your enhanced services one, it kind of struck me that you have quite a surplus there. That's like $500,000 surplus. And I don't know what the sensitivity of the added tax increase will be. What if it was $25 a month instead of 30? And so again, the whole basis of it is just remarkable to me, but I'm just wondering if tweaks might help enhance it.
And to that point, I started this earlier and didn't get it out, but if you look at that note, that increased property tax, we are limited at if we were a city, cities are limited to $1.60.
Yep.
Is the max. So we just went there to try to use this budget, right? But yes, you could set that wherever. I mean, that's the difference in between our current 0.8.
Scale it down to like $1.50 or whatever brings it.
Yeah, and then put in brackets, it could go as high as $1.60 according to law, which would really, you know, say, well, you're not pushing it to the limit. And I would add in how much that is on an annual basis for the 5,000, because that's how people understand it. They don't understand it.
So as far as the presentation model, then make that one basically zero like the other one.
I don't know about zero, but
well, it's not either. It's $2,900, right? So get it closer.
I just think it's fantastic work you guys have done. So anything that is being recommended, it's just tweaking and then is communications then the one to figure out how to present this material? Or
I have a proposal.
Yeah.
What if we made so we I think the last meeting we discussed having 2 research and feasibility meetings this month in order to get this squared away. The first one was on the 11th. I think we talked about the Wednesday, the 25th. So it'd be next Wednesday as another possible one. What if we plan on having kind of one final meeting with research and feasibility to, what's the word for it? A little sensitivity analysis, I guess, on the tax rate for that high service scenario to bring the surplus down closer to zero there.
Okay.
And then maybe just one more look over the models for making sure we didn't make any mistakes. And then we can use this to produce that third scenario to the best of our ability. And then I would like to see communications put together something next month or distribution, however they see fit. Yeah. Should that be a motion or?
Yeah, I would make a motion that we set the research for the 25th and make sure we're going to use the chamber's facility that is available.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to stand outside anymore.
I'm sorry, I'm confused as to what
yeah.
Because I liked, Matt, how you framed it. And I think the revenue might have included the county road taxes. They got up to 30 million, but I like that question that you asked is like, you know, if we're sending this much money to the county, do we feel like we're getting the value of that much? So can we kind of do both? If we're gonna do a straight 10%, can we also can we highlight that? I mean, I think
Sure.
for the communications committee, that's a really interesting question to ask folks.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, I think that that's fair game altogether. It's just that comparison, I think, of, you know, our proportion of the current county budget and services
yeah.
would be a good stick to measure. This is what we really could afford with no increase in taxes. So, you know, if you've got 0.2 of a police officer versus one full-time, is that a significant enough a reason for you to go with, you know, the balanced budget with no increase in taxes? To me, that's a winner.
But see, I don't think we even need to, the position isn't that we want to go for a balanced budget even. The position is that we're voting on the right to choose our path.
We're showing that
and-
it is feasible. I think it's
Yeah,
the issue.
right.
We're showing scenarios of what
That's the-
feasibility is.
I like that one though, because I don't want to pay more. I don't have to.
Nobody
Yeah.
does. None of
Nobody
us.
knows.
No, but
None of
so
us,
that,
yeah.
yeah, that it can be a balanced budget, but the positions could change in there. You might want more law enforcement and less, you know, planners. I don't think you do. But-
Do we need a motion to do that or just?
So I think that's just the
I
work
think
of the
just
committee,
continuing.
and I think if we're gonna keep that meeting on the 25th, to me, we need those. However, we're gonna posture those 3 scenarios, that gets to be the final decision on that. And then communications can work up that final executive. I think my thought about it has been that we write our own executive summary the same way that CAI did. I think ours can be shorter, more concise, and then our support the scenarios that we're gonna present. And I think that's what, you know, we can come back and do that at our meeting next month. And then, you know, as we've discussed, that might conclude the work of this committee. So,
Yes.
yeah, Carol.
Will you present this information to the community?
Well, Communications Committee has not been meeting because there hasn't been new information that we were prepared to present. But I suspect that if this is going to take into April for a final meeting of this committee, whether we choose to have our May quarterly meeting and you know, do it in a public format, or whether we do a Zoom meeting like the county did, you know, to present it. The Communications Committee will have to build that strategy. But what we have been doing is publishing on our website, sending it to Northern Light, Cascadia Daily News, posting it on Facebook and Nextdoor, you know, just informational only, not a place to engage on it. We make ourselves available at meetings like this monthly for engagement, plus personally, people can reach out to all of us and.
Lisa didn't know anything about it.
Oh, I know, Carol.
And I suggest we've got some money left over.
Yeah.
Communication should think about
Yes.
mailer or put in the Northern
Well,
Light or whatever.
yeah,
to get
there's
this-
direct mail.
Well, that's what we were trying to save
Yeah.
enough money to do one, you know, whether it's the single page in the Northern Light costs about what we have left in the bank,
Could
right?
I ask of the public that are here, how many remember getting a flyer in the Northern Light, in the center of the Northern Light? One. There was about a year ago, we sent out a flyer, full color flyer about possible incorporation of Birch Bay inside the Northern Light. We paid $2,000 for it to go to 10,000 people. And we've got one person that said do you not open the Northern Light or?
I read it, I just don't.
Oh, okay.
The newsletter, it was set up like a news.
What about anybody? I'm just really curious.
You're
Me.
sure I got it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know.
Okay,
Yes.
kind of agree, we probably got it, just, that's been a year.
Okay.
so the follow-up question to the visitors, the public here, is if you got a piece of mail, would you open that or would you perceive it as junk mail and not really, you know, if it's a flyer that comes in with all the other flyers in your mailbox?
If you would file probably most of that stuff on
And-
flyers, but I think a mailing would be.
So an envelope,
Well,
With
envelope
your name
way
on
too
it?
expensive. Sorry.
what
How
I'm
about a
asking.
postcard that went directly to your mailbox? It was maybe
Yeah.
11 and a half by.
That-
I mean, is that a,
Is that the people you wanna hit, you know, because there's a lot of people. Yeah, of course, it doesn't make any difference if you don't have a mailbox, you're not voting.
Yeah.
What's
well,
the
there,
property you
good
own?
point,
Registered voters, we have a list.
5,500.
Yeah.
We have a list that would go to registered voters. We could do that. Okay. Any other suggestions?
Other ideas?
If I get a flyer.
Yeah.
That's a different color,
Uh-huh.
that's what. You know, like it's yellow or whatever, then that, I don't know how hard that is to do, but.
We can do anything.
Our last week was pretty colorful.
Our last
so
one was
it
very
yeah,
colorful. It was really nice.
Put final notice on it.
we've been
Final
trying,
notice in yellow and black.
we've been trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty.
Can I ask a question since I'm on communications team too? If you've got a postcard with some highlights on it or something that captured your attention in the mail or your mailbox. And it had a link or an address to go to the details on a website, would you go there and read the details?
Be read on the phone.
You scan it,
Yeah, if
QR
you
code.
go on your phone, that's an email.
I can't read it anymore because it's too
It's
small.
But I mean, there's a lot of information that backs it up and we don't wanna just summarize with a few sound bites. This is very important information. and
Yeah.
You really have to see kind of the big picture. But we're trying to figure out what best way. Neighborhood meetings? Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too, the same way we did, like, but we don't have time.
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
This group.
Okay,
does.
you know what, the
Yeah.
communications
Talking
committee can
different
talk
issues.
about it and get a strategy together and we can hopefully discuss that at next month's meeting as well. But we have just over 10 minutes, almost 15 minutes left. So we want to have open session, public comment,
Yes.
questions on what you saw today, anything like that.
Cool.
Yeah, give it to us.
well, it's just kind of, I like to get things clear in my mind. The idea of a city is basically to get more bang for your buck, you know, is that in a nutshell?
I think for some people, that's the answer.
Not me.
Sure.
But I also want control over what happens here.
Yeah.
Here, I'm paying you.
And the only way you're gonna get that is if you're a city.
Speaking, I'm paying.
Oh, okay.
And
So I have to give it back?
No.
so
Real gold. Very thin.
So the last time it was voted on here was 1992, and there was 3,000 people here. Now there's 9,000, and there's gonna be more. And so for some of us, the idea of having some control over what that looks like for the community. So when we surveyed people, local control was number one.
Number one.
Over increased law enforcement or anything else, those were important as well. And if you read the CAI study, they really looked at it upside down with regards to what the community had said was important to them. And so I feel like our work and what we put together is informed by the surveys that we've done, the hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of hours of meetings and work that we've done to see what the community wants. And we're a pretty diverse group here, you know, that with what our needs are, what part of the Bay we live in, those kinds of things. So anyway, if that answers your question. So keeping the tax dollars here, you know, we just got told by Public Works, there will be no road work in Birch Bay until at least 2031. But that $2 million a year is going to keep coming from Birch Bay to Whatcom County in those 5 years. But not one of those dollars is going to come back, at least as of right now. So for some people, yes, keeping tax dollars at home is their answer. Bruce?
Well, the money's gonna go to Barry, so.
Oh, Barry,
I
yeah.
don't really care about the ferry.
Well,
Yeah, but you're paying for it.
we don't, but the reason why we're not gonna get any road services because they're obligated to pay for that ferry service.
That's right.
The ferry is $50 million.
Yeah.
And in what, 2040 something, they've gotta move the dock somewhere.
Terminal.
Yeah.
It's
Pat, let him finish.
it's a mess, so to be able to have that control.
Yeah.
Would be nice to know that that money is coming here, it's not going to fund a ferry system that I haven't been on in 20 years.
Mhm.
That the cities actually don't pay into.
That's exactly right.
Yeah,
That may be changing though.
well, yeah, but not anytime
anyhow,
soon.
They're gonna fight.
Anybody else?
Well, I
Ernie?
kind of like I'm on the Birch Bay Community Advisory Committee and I know you mentioned last night that John Scanlon was there.
Mhm.
And we had some concerns with how the CAI study was brought back out to the public with a not feasible recommendation on the first page or so. We pointed that out to him and also pointed out that we had requested from the executive's office to look at how that study was done and whether they met the objectives.
Mhm.
Right? I think in the original contract, they were supposed to provide several scenarios and not come to a conclusion, but
Mhm.
to provide information like you folks have done to allow people like us to make an informed decision without just saying, we want your money, it's not feasible. Which is the sense that most people are getting. The executive office has not responded, believe it or not. Councilmember Scanlon has told us that he was going to look into it and see what is going on, but they really did you folks, all of us, a disservice by publishing that study saying it's not feasible, because it is feasible just depending on which model you choose.
Very good.
They picked the expensive model and said it's not feasible, well, so anyway, that's.
We agree that they didn't do us any favors.
No, and a lot of people who read that now have said, oh, well, they did it, it's not feasible, and my mind's been made up.
Mhm.
Which is unfortunate, because I think tonight you folks have presented a feasible option. I really think that you need to present one that's no cost,
Mhm.
right? I mean, if I pay the same exact money to the city, what am I gonna get?
Yeah.
That's where I think most people are gonna be, and I think you're gonna find that you're gonna get better service, you're gonna get more prompt service. And you're gonna have more local.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Last
Anybody
time
else?
the County worked on the ferry area. They did a parking lot over on Lummi Island. And they paid $1,000 for each parking spot. I think you already have one of these. You can give them someday.
Yeah, Pat, can we get through the rest of the public comment, please? We're almost out of time. We can do, okay.
This is
Um,
what Birch Bay is. It's more valuable than gold, and we need to take care of it.
This is
We need the tool.
C-sharp candy.
It's a gold rocks. Okay, anybody else in the back? You guys have any comments? Plus, minus, what haven't we shared? Any other input? Barney? John?
My comment would be is that how can we pay all this money to the group that put this thing together to do the feasibility study? And then we tell them they're nuts, it's not right. So, but, you've shown some good reasons why.
Mhm.
So it's up to people to make up their mind.
Yeah, we're not telling anybody to vote for or against it. We're not gonna try to do that. Your human beings can make up your own mind. We'll give you the information you need,
Right,
and then you make your decision.
right.
I move adjournment.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor?
Thank
Aye.
you guys for.
5 minutes early.
Hey.